There's this like extreme sort of like every Sundays I play at church, but like on the other days I actually listen to metal. I started to explore electronic music, and I was interested in doing more sort of like lo-fi, sort of synth pop, sort of like just weird synth sound. I got tired of the name essentially, Coco, Lulu, and so I adopted the moniker Spazzkid. It's come to my attention as well that the word spaz could be seen as a derogatory term.
Hi, this is Lauren Engel of Sidewalk Talk. Today I'm here with Mark Redito.
Hey, what's up?
So you were born in Manila, or like kind of right outside, right? Or
Yeah. I was born outside of. Well, actually, I was born in Manila, in Quezon City, but I grew up in San Pedro, which is a suburb south of Manila.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do your parents do, or before?
Well, my dad was a construction engineer, so he builds houses. My mom is.
What kind? Like residential?
Residential.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, does residential houses. My mom is a stay-at-home mom.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's a big demand for residential houses, right?
Yeah,
now.
I feel like the Philippines is continuously just developing and progressing. For better or for worse, I guess. There's just like all these like houses and commercial development going on, and inevitably sometimes it displaces people. Sort of like the same as what's happening in the States too.
Yeah, in
the whole
LA.
gentrification thing. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Where do you think you got your creative side from?
Creative side. I think it would be from my dad, who he got me into music.
Oh.
Yeah. He the first band that I got obsessed with is the Beatles, and my dad gave me like a tape of the Beatles, and then it was just like something that I just obsessed with, and during that time I was like playing the drums, and I was trying to sort of like do drum covers of like the Beatles, and yeah. So yeah, I think the music and the creative side I got from my dad. Yeah.
And it was also going to church, right? Or
Yeah.
you were in the church band?
I was in the church band. Yeah. I have so many memories where I would play the drums really loud, and obviously it's a church. It's very like conservative, and I thought the people would like it. People didn't. So
especially in the Philippines, it's like so down.
Yeah. So yeah. I think most of my music experience starting out is from church, playing at church.
What were your like friends listening to back then?
Oh man. I guess, let's see, during that time, I remember when I was playing it's so funny because there's this like contrast. I was playing at church, right? But at the same time, I was also like into metal during that time. And so there's this like extreme sort of like every Sundays I play at church, but like on the other days I actually listen to metal, like Slayer, Pantera,
Wow. Is metal big in Philippines?
Yeah, I would say so. There's like a metal
so
scene.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think the Philippine scene in general sort of mimics or is very similar to like what we have here in the States, right? Like there's this little pockets of like, obsessed fans, and in the Philippines there's a big scene for metal, there's a big scene for punk, which I also grew up listening to. Emo, hardcore. So pretty much those are the music that I actually grew up with.
How do you call it? Is it like Laguna or
Laguna? Yeah. That's the town that I grew up in, and that town is known to have like a big punk and hardcore scene.
Oh wow.
When I was growing up.
So you were in tons of bands.
I was in tons of bands. Yeah, you know, playing drums mostly, but I would have side projects where I would also sing and play guitar. So yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah.
you were already singing when you were young.
Yeah, I was. I mean, you know, you're just like singing in punk bands, and you know, with punk bands, I feel like you don't need to have a lot of talent. and I guess like, well, I wouldn't say that you don't need a lot of talent. I mean, like, at least you have to have some sort of understanding of music. And during that time, I was just trying to find my voice, and yeah, I feel like, you know, when I remember all the stuff that I did back when I was young, it's like, oh, this is crap, you know. But I was also young, and I was also sort of like trying to explore like different sounds, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. How else would you describe yourself back then growing up?
Angsty, and I mean, all of us were, you know,
Yeah.
at some point, you know, when we were growing up. I feel like I was such an emotional like kid growing up, you know, like I think that's the reason why, you know, after getting into punk rock, I started listening to emo, and that's why I feel like that's a music that very like was perfect during that time in my life. And you know, I mean, we all know like that stage in our lives, you
Yeah.
know, like everything is a big deal, you know, like you hate your parents, and you know, feeling isolated, you know, feeling different from everyone else. So.
And then when you first started producing on your own, how do you say it? Coco Lulu? Or?
Coco Lulu, yeah. When I started the Coco Lulu project, that was around 2006, and I guess during that time I got tired of playing in bands, and so I started to explore electronic music, and I was interested in doing more sort of like lo-fi, sort of synth pop, sort of like just weird synth sounds. I didn't really, you know, venture into like dance music itself, but sort of like the 80s stuff, like the, you know, the new wave sort of stuff. Like I wanted to make music that's similar to that, and so
Who were you listening to for the turning point?
Let's see. I used to listen to this band called Joy Electric, and he uses a lot of like modular synths. Who else did I listen to? Like Joy Division, New Order, that sort of stuff. A lot of like 80s stuff, 80s synth stuff. And with the Coco Lulu project, I wanted to make you know, like music that sounds like that. And then you know, like at some point I feel like, oh, you know, I got tired of the name, essentially, you know, Coco Lulu, and so I adopted the moniker Spazzkid. And this was like 2 or 3 years in. So yeah, Spazzkid.
How old were you when you did Spazzkid?
I would say maybe early 20s.
Okay.
Early 20s. Yeah.
So were you already in the US by then? Oh.
I was still in the Philippines during that time.
Oh, so you
Yeah.
went to college in the Philippines?
Correct. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
What were you studying?
I was studying business management, and I have a degree
Yeah.
with business.
I'm like not surprised.
Yeah.
Everyone in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Was that from your parents? They just want you to.
How did you know? You're so good. It's funny because, like, yeah. I mean, I went to this university in UST, which is like an old university in the Philippines, and they're known for their art school and their medical school. which is interesting. But so I took the application exam, and I actually passed both the art school and also the business school.
Wow.
And during that time, my dad, had a business, and he was telling me, oh, someday you would be
Joining the family.
yeah, join the family business and all that stuff, and it's stable. I was like, okay, cool, and so I went to business school and earned my degree.
Did you like it?
It was okay.
Yeah.
It was alright. I feel like it's I guess like in hindsight it is helping me now as an independent musician, like knowing at least like the basics of business, because I mean being an independent musician is essentially being like an entrepreneur. You're running your own shit. You're like you're managing people, your team, whatever, income, expenses. So I think like it worked out. But if I was to go back again, I might go to art school instead. Yeah.
And then what happened after?
So after college, worked crappy jobs.
Not with your dad?
No, I didn't. Yeah. Because like after college, my dad moved to the States.
Oh.
And my whole family moved to the States. And so I was just left there in the Philippines to sort of like, manage and take care of like properties and all that stuff.
What did your parents move to the States for?
For work.
Oh.
Yeah. My dad got a job in at a construction company in Chicago.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah.
Especially like them
Absolutely,
finding him.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so it was a good call for him to actually move to the States because he gets paid better. And so yeah, he and my sisters moved out there, and I was the only one stuck in the Philippines, and it was cool because like that also gave me time to sort of like explore music, but at the same time I was also working crappy jobs during that time too. So it was kind of rough because I was starting my music career over there, but at the same time too like working, and the stuff that the companies that I work for are like they're just really crappy, or I wasn't made to, or it was hard for me to actually work for.
What kind of jobs were they?
Mostly customer service jobs.
Okay.
They're like like tech support and stuff like that. I used to work for Dell.
Okay.
Dell tech support. It was like the worst. Yeah. it was the worst because everyone who's calling is irate. Everyone's just mad. You know, it's like their computer's not working, blah blah. And so imagine like having to deal with that like every single day, every hour. It's draining. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And then after work I would just go straight home, and I think my outlet was during that time was just music. Like I would try to put all of these like feelings and emotions, my frustrations and everything towards my music, and yeah, and I feel like that also taught me to become like patient and consistent with just having a creative practice. Yeah.
How did you get the early music out there for Spazzkid?
Oh man, MySpace.
Oh. So you kind of had you built a community there.
Yeah. I mean, like, so MySpace, this was around what, like early 2000s, right? Approximately. So I think during that time, as much as I have a local sort of fan base, most of my fan base are global. And I think MySpace sort of like is the first music platform to sort of like have that. And yeah, MySpace, Pure Volume, that's the stuff that I used to like upload my stuff to. and from there, like, build friendships and communities with, other musicians as well. Yeah.
And then you moved to, was it LA for music school or where?
Yeah. So around 2008 is when I moved to the States. I went to music school at it's around here. It's nearby. Do you know where Musicians Institute is?
No.
Okay.
In Hollywood though.
In Hollywood, yeah. It's in Hollywood. It's a pretty good school. I really enjoyed my time there. But if I was to go back, I would have, like, instead of like paying tuition for music school, I would have invested that money somewhere else, maybe like in a studio where I could actually collaborate with people.
Yeah.
And build my relationships and networks that way. Yeah, because most of the stuff that I've learned at school, I've learned myself. Like, I think school essentially just acknowledged like what I already knew, but it did help me. It did help me have access to people who are doing it, for a living. Like the mentors that I've had over there, which was very helpful. The mentors that I've had over there, had good experience in the music industry, and so it was helpful for me to actually be around that and be in the company of people who are also like me, trying to not trying to make it, but trying to have a sustainable career as a musician. Yeah.
What clicked you to change your name?
From Spazzkid to Mark Redito.
Yeah.
I think it was time. It was time to change. I found myself changing more and more, and I feel like the name, the moniker Spazzkid, didn't feel right anymore. It felt limiting. It felt restrictive. So that's one. I feel like it was time for a change. Part two is, I also, it has come to my attention as well that, the word spaz could be seen as a derogatory term for people with mental illness. And so, I didn't really want to associate my music with that, and yeah.
Were you ever afraid of having difficulty shifting your fans? Like, cause you already were doing it for so many years, then were you scared of losing that fan base, or how to, it's a lot.
Yeah, no, totally.
Even for shows and stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. It's essentially starting over again, and it's hard, man. It's hard. But I feel like I've made the right decision just because it just feels right to me, to actually have my name instead of a moniker, because I feel like this gives me much more freedom to actually pursue like sounds and projects, versus with the name Spazzkid, like people already have an idea or like notions of what this project would sound like. I feel, at least for me, I feel like adopting Mark Redito, my name, offers this all these options. I can if I want to have a shoegaze record, if I want to make a shoegaze record, I could totally do that. Yeah.
And then how do you say it? Liquido come about?
Liquido. Yeah.
How did that come about?
So Liquido, it started around 2016. It's mostly it's an event series, and it was a response to that thing that happened in Florida where it was a gay club.
Oh yeah.
And there's the what do you call it, like a massacre that happened there.
Yeah.
And so it felt very emotional during that time, especially knowing the roots of dance music and electronic music having, you know, deep roots with the LGBTQ community. And so that felt very, yeah, it felt really, I felt really very strongly like when that happened. And so I feel like as someone who is part of the, you know, electronic music, you know, community, I felt called to actually express what I'm feeling through an event. And so I gathered, like, you know, all my friends who were you know, who are part of the scene, the local scene, and then from there, you know, we did our first event, and yeah.
What do your parents think about your career now?
My dad is my biggest fan.
Really?
Yeah, he would go on my Facebook or my Instagram, and he would, like, you know, comment and, you know, reply to my posts.
No way.
And he would be like, "Good job, son." You know, and I was like,
That's
"Oh my
so
God,
rare for an
God."
Asian parent. You're
Yeah.
so lucky. Like, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, my dad has always been there for me. You know, like, up until the moment that, you know, I told him, "Hey, you know, I'm going to the States. I'm going to go to music school. I want music to be my career." And, you know, I mean, like any Asian parent, he was like, "Are you sure about that?" You know, like that's you know, it's hard. You know, it's unstructured, it's untraditional. The support system isn't there, and, you know, which is all true. You know, and, you know, he was making the point, and, you know, it's unstable, it's uncertain, and he's right about that. But then, you know, in the end, he still was, you know, in the end he was like, "Yeah, if that's what you want, then go for it."
Wow.
You know, as long as you know what you're getting into. You know.
How do you think your style of music has changed over the years?
I feel like it's always changing every release. Yeah. And, you know, I feel like a lot of musicians could relate to this, but there's always that sort of desire to always evolve, to pursue new sounds, to try a different style, and I feel that very strongly in me, and that, okay, like, you know, all right, I'm into this stuff, and I would pursue it like you know, like head on. And then, you know, after a few months, I'm like, oh, you know what, it's time to switch. You know, like, I want to keep it really interesting, like, for myself. You know, and my hope is that my followers and my audience would also appreciate that too. You know, but yeah, you know, yeah.
What clicked you to start your YouTube channel, and what are your goals for it?
It's just an experiment at this point. I mean, I feel like I take a lot of inspiration from channels like yours, you know, where it's like, here's an idea, here's a thing, and I'm gonna do it. You know, and we'll see where it goes, you know.
Yeah.
And I see that a lot in your channel, and, you know, I think right now at this point you're much more, you have a system down, like, you know what you want. For me, I'm still sort of experimenting, like, okay, like, let's do vlogs a little bit, let's do like tutorial videos a little bit, we'll see where it goes, sort of thing. I think, like, the way that I see it, it's like, it's my show, and I can do whatever I want with it. Yeah. But yeah, still a lot of learning. I think that I should, you know, I think we should talk one of these days and give me tips on how to actually grow my YouTube, you know?
I need tips. Mostly collab. I mean, like, think about it. Every single interview I do is pretty much a collaboration.
That's true.
That's 5 collaborations per week.
That is true. That is so true. I think what I love about your channel is the consistency. It's very consistent. You have this main idea, you know, which is, you know, revolving around dance music, electronic music, and creativity. and it's just like whatever video that you make is very solidly rooted in those ideas.
Oh,
you know,
thank you.
which I think is like, it's pretty cool to see that. It's pretty cool to see that. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. How would you say you've grown as a person compared to when you were younger?
How have I grown as a person? I feel like age does play a part. I'm someone in his late 30s, you know, and so that has really informed the way that I looked at life, the way that I look at my relationships, the way that I look at music, you know, and art and creativity. I feel like I'm less, I'm more mellow now. I feel like.
Yeah. You're super mellow. I'm like, you would do the best at customer service while we're on the phone.
Yeah, I feel like, and so when I see, say, like a younger person, in the creative industry, like you see the hunger and the passion in their eyes, right? And that is great, and you should have that. But then there's also like an extreme, sense of that where it's just like, oh, I want shit to happen right now, And I feel like just growing older, makes you, I guess, at least for me, it made me more patient and more, I guess, humble. Like you can't have everything. Might as well just focus on things that really matter to you. And for me, it is music. And as hard as it is, making a career in music, I feel like that's really what I want to do. Yeah.
What does love mean to you?
I think we are all love. I think that, and this might sound very woo-woo, but it's really truly what I believe in. I feel like this soul or spirit or thing that we have, this consciousness, I think that is love, and we have this capacity to actually care for another soul, another person, completely and deeply. I think that is love. Yeah.
What do you love about your wife's personality?
Supportive.
Oh.
Very supportive. Yeah. It's tough being married to, she's an artist in general. It involves a lot of touring, traveling. It involves a lot of trust as well. But Susan is very supportive, and she understands that is really, what I want to do or what I'm called to do.
What would you say have been your biggest challenging moment so far?
Challenging moments. When I first moved to the States around 2008, it was a big culture shock for me. I mean, imagine this, I was already in my 20s when I moved here, so I was pretty set, I was pretty set in my ways, I had this idea of how the world is, and then imagine moving to a place, a completely different place culturally. Like, I thought that I knew what it's like to live in the States, but I didn't, So, I think for a while I felt isolated and lonely, and I feel like I couldn't connect to the people here. There's just a lot of just cultural barriers. I mean, I could speak the language, but it was hard for me to make friends because it's like the same references that people have growing up here is different from what I grew up in. So yeah, I remember being lonely during that time, but then I think a part of me also wanted to reach out and connect with people, and so I think one outlet was through music. Another one is actually pushing myself. make some friends, make some new friends, even though it's hard. You know, let's start with having online friends, and you know, and we'll pursue that. You know, and hopefully have a real friendship. You know. Yeah.
Last question. What do you want to be remembered for?
What do I want to be remembered for? Yeah, that's a good question and a deep one too. I just want to be remembered I just want to be remembered as someone who, was kind and who is genuine and who pursued art and music like fully. I want to be remembered as an innovative and unique voice in electronic music.
Yeah, I love that. It's just so awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.